Boom, stop. I'm David Tian, Ph.D. and in this video I answer the question, does she love me unconditionally? Welcome to Man Up episode 210.
Masculinity for the intelligent man. I'm David Tian, Ph.D., and this is Man Up!
Hey, I'm David Tian, Ph.D., and for the past 10 years I've been helping hundreds of thousands of people in over 87 countries attain success, happiness, and fulfillment in life and love. Here I am in a boat. Been on the boat for a few hours already, and then we're like, damn, we're supposed to film a Man Up episode, so I'm doing it. But just came out rough and ready for the boat, so excuse my appearance if I look a little bit haggard. Anyway, so got a question here from the Man Up private Facebook group. By the way, you might have noticed that we are the only boat on this lake, this gorgeous, placid lake. We're staying in that resort around the other end of the lake. That side of the resort, please. That resort there. Beautiful resort. Great. We keep hearing these cows. I don't know if you probably can't hear it from my mic, but they're mooing in the background. I always wondered why cows moo. Like, what are they trying to say when they moo? What makes a cow moo? Anyway, so question from the Man Up private Facebook group. This one comes from Roger. Roger Moore. I don't know why I say that. It's a lost in translation reference. Okay, thanks to what I've learned from David in both Limitless and Invincible, I recently started a serious relationship with one of the most incredible girls I've ever met. Well, that's awesome, man. She's incredibly affectionate, values loyalty and honesty. She's compassionate, intelligent, and less importantly, drop-dead gorgeous. All right. As far as I can tell, she's also unusually mature for her age. We're both 20. So why am I writing? Okay, so a recent conversation has me worried. The other day she texted me, I love you more than anything. Always be faithful to me, okay? Never lie to me. Of course, I would never do such a thing, and I told her so. But I didn't know where this was coming from, so I asked, why are you thinking of this now? She said, because, you know, I miss you a lot. We recently started doing long distance. And sometimes I have a hard time because I want to be with you, but if you do something that upsets me, all of it will go to waste, and if you don't tell me, I will keep on missing you for nothing. This stung a little bit, he says, Roger says, even though I don't have any intentions to cheat on her. So I said, and I'm paraphrasing, it sounds kind of harsh that you think everything would go to waste and you're missing me for nothing. If you were unfaithful to me, I would be... So he says, it sounds kind of harsh that you... Let me just make sure the question's almost over. It sounds kind of harsh that you think everything would go to waste and you're missing me for nothing. He says, it sounds kind of harsh. So he wrote, based on what, Roger, what you wrote that she wrote, listen more carefully to what she wrote to you. If you do something that upsets me, all of it will go to waste. And if you don't tell me, I will keep on missing you for nothing. So in other words, she's saying, if you cheat on me, motherfucker, then it will go to waste my missing you. And I will keep on missing you for nothing because I shouldn't be missing you because you fucking cheated on me. Okay, so that makes sense, doesn't it, Roger? But you're like, it sounds harsh. I think you should be missing me even after I cheat on you, bitch. But anyway, that's actually what he's saying, and I'll show you why. It sounds kind of harsh that you think everything would go to waste and you're missing me for nothing. If you were unfaithful to me, I would be so hurt by my love for you. So now he's speaking to her. If you were unfaithful to me, I would be so hurt, but my love for you wouldn't change because my love for you is unconditional. Okay, so these are 20-year-olds taking my words out of context. I've had other videos where I talk about unconditional love and the different kinds of love, that the standard love that people get into relationships with is transactional or conditional, and that's normal. So let's just put that out there. Almost all relationships, romantic relationships, begin as conditional ones. That's how they start. And almost all of them still are conditional. And that's okay. Most relationships are. Now, if you're looking, what everyone wants though, is everyone's looking for unconditional love. Probably the last time you ever had that was the love of your mother. That's the classic example. It could have been your dad as well, who loved you unconditionally. Even if you turned out to be an axe murderer, they'd throw you in jail, but they'd still love you. Now, if you are if you're not forced to love that person in the sense of like they're not your blood relatives, so you can't really get rid of them, and instead you enter into an agreement with another person, I'm pretty sure you didn't enter a relationship saying on day one, I will love you even if you cheat on me. I mean, that's actually dysfunctional if you're like that. There's some other neediness issues and problems that you have if that's the case, if you're going around in a relationship like, cheat on me, I don't care, I love you anyway. So what a relationship has to do is to grow into an unconditional one, and that takes years. And you guys are 20 years old, and you're very Romeo and Juliet here, and you're like, even if I cheat on you, or even if you cheat on me, I will still love you. I will be hurt, but I'll love you. Okay, and that might be the case. You might still love you. You might still love the person. Now, if you cheat on her while she's in love with you, she will still love you, actually. It's not like you just go one day loving somebody, completely being in love and actively loving somebody, and then the next day not loving them at all. That's not how emotions work. It's not just, but, if that were the case, like she finds out you cheated on her, she'll have a slow burn, and she'll go through a whole roller coaster of emotions before she can get over that and come to grips with it. And just even the reality of it will take some days for her to assess it and to actually let it sink in that actually happened. And then there's a whole bargaining, like, why, and all those different phases. So it's not like just immediate. So she's quite right in saying, I won't stop loving you, but I will be hurt, and that's true, but that's not meritorious in any way. It's not like you are in an unconditional love relationship just because you love somebody who's cheated on you. But what happens is, the unconditional love comes in where you could now choose to not love that person. And you can choose to not, and it's a good idea if you're in a romantic relationship not to love somebody who's betrayed you. That's a good thing. So be very careful, in other words, who you enter into an unconditional love relationship with. As a 20-year-old, I think you have no business in deciding who to do that with, except your mom, your dad, or your children, if you have any. Because in a way, you are beholden to them for other reasons. But if you have the choice, you meet some girl on the street or wherever, I don't know where you guys met, and you enter into a relationship with her, I hope you are not in the position where you're saying, I will unconditionally love this random human being that I've chosen out of 7 billion people, to give everything I have to this person, even if they stab me in the back. So I hope that's not what I ever meant by unconditional love. Unconditional love is so much higher than the bar you guys are setting. And don't get mad when the person that you're dating doesn't love you unconditionally. That's ridiculous that you would expect that. So, that's why most dating relationships are just superficial, right? There's nothing wrong with that. They're dating relationships. I don't put dating up here on a pedestal like all you youngins do. Dating is like, when you're 40 years old, you've gone through a lot of dating things. It's not a big deal. These are just all casual things. They don't mean shit until it's been through the fire. So like maybe 2-3 years, at that point, you might be thinking, maybe I will stick with this person through thick and thin. And then that's marriage. You might as well be married then. Because if you're really going to stick through thick and thin, you might as well get all the perks that marriage brings you. Because if otherwise, don't play with that. Don't play with that. Don't think that this very, not daunting, but very rarefied thing of the unconditional relationship, as if it were something that is easy to enter and is something you choose willy-nilly. All right, so continuing, he's almost done this. This stung a little bit, he says, even though I don't have any, okay, she said, I'm not saying for my love for you would immediately disappear. I believe you won't cheat, but my feelings would change if I got cheated on, and it would turn to hate. She's quite self-aware, as is usually the case. Females mature quicker than males. And this is quite true. She will likely, if you cheat on her, her feelings for you won't change. In fact, she'll probably get more addicted to you because she just lost out, right? So she'll want to get back the thing that she's now lacking. And she'll get even more, like, needing the love from you and get even more needy. And then she will turn to hate. It will turn to hate. She might, it sounds like she's been cheated on before, at 20 years old to know this. But she will then turn into, like, the roller coaster is part of that is, I fucking hate you. This is why when you're attracting her, like in pickup, if you get a very strong reaction that's way out of proportion to what's deserved, like maybe you made a comment that any normal girl would just laugh at, but this one girl was just like, how dare you? And she gets all mad. I mean, she really likes you because you got under her skin. She'd only care that much and get that incensed if she really liked and give a shit about your opinion. And then that's an intense emotion. And in fact, you might see this in attraction, when you study attraction, that intense emotions of hate, of laughter, or whatever it is, quickly can turn into any other intense emotion. There's actually been proven scientifically through studies on adrenaline and fear. So fear it's easy for the brain to interpret that wrongly as attraction. So if you take a girl on a roller coaster and she's really scared and her heart is beating really quickly, and then she looks at you, her brain will get tricked into thinking the reason why her heart's beating is because you're so gorgeous. That's actually been proven scientifically. So the brain has trouble knowing the difference, just like you have trouble knowing the difference between real fear and the excitement fear of a roller coaster, right? Like you're actually really afraid, but you'll pay the money to take that roller coaster to give you that fear because you like it. You like the fear. You see, it's very different. So it's the same thing. Love and hate are very close. The opposite of love or hate is indifference, actually, not feeling anything, not giving a fuck, like truly not caring. It will be hard for her to truly not care after being cheated on in a love relationship, or in a passionate love relationship, where she's got the feelings of being in love. It won't be so quick, like one day she's in love with you, the next day she's not. So she's quite right in saying that. She says, I believe you won't cheat, but my feelings would change. My feelings would change if I got cheated on, and it would turn to hate, but they wouldn't immediately disappear. The love would not immediately disappear. And that's just true. And then Roger says, this is where I really started to feel uncomfortable. On the one hand, it's good for her to have boundaries, which makes sense to a limited degree. But on the other hand, it shows that her feelings of me are not unconditional. And that if I make mistakes later in our relationship, it doesn't have to be cheating. She might not be emotionally mature enough to understand and forgive me. He's like, bitch, if I cheat on you, you better fucking forgive me. Like, where did you guys get this idea? Like, no, she's not your fucking, like, what do you call that? Like, you stamp on? Do you know that? Like, she's not your stamping pad. What do you call that? Like, anyway, so she's not for you to step all over. Fuck, I'm losing my idioms now. So she's got some self-respect here. And I think it's in her best interest, if you cheat on her, for her to dump your fucking ass, Roger. And she shouldn't enter into an unconditional love relationship with somebody she suspects or is afraid might cheat on her. And that's okay. It sounds like you guys have just been dating for a little while. You know how I know this? Because of the way you described her. Anybody who comes into a description of any other human being saying they're perfect, basically how you described her, doesn't yet know that human being. You got to know the other human being's dark side and then really accept that. Then you know somebody. So, I mean, this is just immaturity on your part. But you're in love, and that's a good thing. So that means you're probably within the first 6 months of dating. The way you've described, I would say within the first 3 months. Yeah, you don't say here how long you've been dating, but so I would suggest to her, if I were a big brother, to go slow with you, let you mature as you're in the relationship together, and the two of you should mature together. And you better not cheat on her. I mean, if you cheat on her, she shouldn't continue to uphold her end of that relationship. And unless you have some very good reasons why she should be patient with you and let you get over that and give you another chance, there are very few conditions under which that would be advisable for her. But maybe she. But yeah, so that I would say no, she shouldn't. Now, if you make mistakes, like maybe you forgot her anniversary or something, okay, that's something maybe she shouldn't dump you about. But if you cheat on her ass, I think that's something that's very legitimate reason for her to dump you. Now, she might not fall out of love with you if she's in a passionate love relationship with you and she has feelings for you. It wouldn't suddenly change. Even if she wanted to fall out of love with you, she wouldn't be able to. So if you're the one who dumped her all of a sudden, right? Well, it wouldn't be all of a sudden, probably, unless you're just immature and you wanted to get more for your ego, maybe. So then, anyway, she wouldn't just like the next day fall out of love with you. But I think it's in her interest to let that peter out, and then hate you for a while and so on, get over you. So basically, I think the bigger lesson for you, Roger, is that unconditional love is like agape, man. It is like self-sacrifice. It's like Jesus Christ on the fucking cross. I just said Jesus Christ on the fucking cross. That type of love. That's not something you as a 20-year-old just gets into. Unconditional love relationships are very special and rare and should be entered into carefully. And here's another thing I've noticed inside the Man Up Facebook group. There are a lot of guys who have been ex-players. They've gone through a lot. Like they've been cheated on, they've cheated on other people. And they're in their late 30s or whatever, or early 40s, and sometimes in their 50s, now single, having gone through 2 or 3 divorces. And they've been around the block. So they're given advice, and generally the advice is good. However, I've noticed that it's a general trend among advice from those types of guys, is that they say never let yourself be vulnerable to being hurt. So don't put yourself in a position where you're going to be hurt. In other words, always be the one up in that relationship. Never give her the upper hand and so on, right? And that's all coming out of fear. It's coming out of insecurity. They've been there before and they've been hurt. And one of the decisions they made out of those relationships is don't ever be hurt again. And that's a mistake. That's why they will never get into an unconditional relationship ever in their lives. In order for you to be in an unconditional relationship, you have to open up to the possibility of getting fucked over. And it should be a very slight possibility. I mean, like, these things are always possible, but it should be like, you shouldn't consciously say, okay, now I will unconditionally love you, until this possibility of getting fucked over is like 1% or something like that. But that's all, but it's still there. But be careful that, so the advice to Roger, a 20-year-old Roger, is be very careful about who you enter into unconditional relationships with. Realize that these things are, you shouldn't really decide whether to do so in a romantic relationship until like 3 or 4 years, or I would say 5 years really into a relationship at 20 years old. Because if you haven't experienced it, you don't have that calibration yet to know whether it would work out with this woman. I would say wait until you feel the 3 to 5 year hump and know what that's like when you go out of love. And now you have to transition from passionate love to companionate love. I go into that, the research on that in a lot of detail in other videos. You can YouTube search love versus attraction and YouTube search the reality of women. And you'll see me do the lectures on that. So to make that change, to feel what that's like. But for the guys who are older, the ex-players who have been around the block and who've been burned a bunch of times, and they've made the decision not to ever be vulnerable, I'll tell you guys, the older guys, that's a mistake in your relationships, because it will actually ensure that you never actually get an unconditional love relationship, because you always have to open up and be vulnerable. You got to expose the jugular in order to hug. Right? You can't like hug somebody and like completely open up if you're always on guard, right? So you got to drop your guard and take the risk that you could get punched in the fucking throat, right? But that's real confidence. That's real confidence to say, okay, you might hurt me, but I'm going to do this anyway. And when you make that decision, though, be very careful about who you enter into that relationship with. So those guys understand that. So it's not something that you just see. This is one of the biggest mistakes that guys make. The young guys is that they still mistake the kind of unconditional love relationships of companionate love, the deeper love that I'm talking about, that would lead into marriage or something like that. They mistake that for the shit that they feel in the first 3 to 6 months, or even the first year to 3 years of a dating relationship. They're not even fucking close, man. Especially if you're 20 years old. You have no fucking clue what an unconditional love relationship in a romance relationship is like. You might have been on the receiving end of that love from your parents, and not even known it, all right? Because, you know, as a youngster, you don't even know how to process that, or, you know, but that's probably the only person who's loved you unconditionally, your parents. And that's normal as a 20-year-old. All right, so let's just be clear on that. Advice here for 2 different types of guys. For the younger guys, take your time. Do not expect her in the first, when you're the first year of dating, for her to like give you her soul. All right, even if you fuck her over, she's still there for you. I mean, that's bad. And then the second type of guy, the older, been around the block, bitter guy, is you got to open up and be vulnerable if you want to actually find real love, instead of just more like sex, dating kind of thing. All right, so in the hands, it shows that her feelings for me are not unconditional, and that if I make mistakes, okay, right, I'm really not sure how to handle this. I'm truly in love with this girl. Yeah, in love. And that's a typical, like, in love versus versus love. And this is a very important distinction, especially among modern young people, that you should be aware of. And if you're not, YouTube search love versus attraction, my lecture on that, and the other reality of women, according to science, lectures that I did. Okay. She has so many good qualities. Are my thoughts valid? Should I let it go? Is this a red flag? Will her feelings about this change as she gets older? No, I don't think her feelings should change as she gets older about that. I think her thoughts are very rational. I think you need to mature and understand that you guys are just dating right now. And that's totally cool. And neither of you should enter into an unconditional love relationship or make that decision at this juncture. Okay, man, so I'm going to enjoy the rest of the day. It's so gorgeous out here. It's just amazing. We've actually extended our stay in this area for another day just because it's so beautiful. I think that's one of the best parts about Europe. It's not the cities, because if you've been to Asia, Asian cities just rock. After Asia, it's ruined you on the rest of the world, as far as cities go, in my opinion. Food, the excitement, the energy, the frenetic pace. But the countryside, that's still really, really special out here. So anyway, gonna enjoy that. Join the private Man Up Facebook group. You'll see the questions in there. So good advice also from the comments there. And I'll interact with you in there. And I'll see you inside the Man Up private Facebook group. Click the link, join the group. Until then, David Tian signing out. Man up.